So in this first question, we're introduced to a company job evaluation scheme where the pay will be allocated to each job according to the number of points awarded. Before the scheme, there was a sample of 8 employees taken, and the regression equation was y equals 4.5x minus 45. First, we're asked to describe the correlation between the points and the pay. When we're asked to describe the correlation, it's just tell us, is it positive, negative, or no correlation? So in this case, the correlation between points and pay is positive. For part B, we've been asked to give an interpretation, and the word there lets us know what to do. An interpretation of the gradient. Yes, the gradient is 4.5, but we need to interpret that. And the gradient always tells us for one increment, or for an increment of 1, for the x value, for the x variable, we have the gradient value increment in the y variable. So in this case, for every additional point, the employee will earn an extra £4.5. Okay, now that's the interpretation we need. You've got to use the number and you've got to mention the 2 variables. So I mentioned the points and the pay and the 4.5. So in part C, we've been asked to explain why the model might not be appropriate for all jobs in the company. So we're really looking to see whether or not this model makes sense all of the time. Looking at the values involved, I spot straight away that actually, if I had a low value for x, I would get a negative number. Which means if there was a low number of points assigned to a particular job or to a particular employee, they will get a negative value for the amount of pay that they're meant to get, which obviously doesn't make sense. So what would be a low value? So specifically in this case, I calculated that 10 or anything less than 10 is going to generate a negative value for the amount of pay you should be getting. So I've just been specific about that in my explanation here. So in working through this question, there were some key words that let me know the kind of response I needed. First, we had describe, which is just positive, negative, no correlation. Then we had interpret, where we had to mention those 3 specific things, the 2 variables and a numerical value. And finally, we had explain, where we just needed a bit more in terms of the context.